This is the song I'll be making in today's video. Yo everybody, my name is Chris Punsalan. Welcome back to another video. So the good people over at the Plugin Boutique sent me Izotope's newest plugin called Neutron 3, and at the end of the video I'm gonna be highlighting their newest features. But before we get into that, let's break down this track. So lately I've really been enjoying the tempo 140, so I set this project to 140. And I've also been listening to a lot of lo-fi beats that have electric pianos in them, so that inspired my sound choice, or at least the first sound choice for this song. And once I had the chord progression going, which took me forever to figure out, I decided to add some hi-hats, just a constant 1/16 hi-hat with a few rolls here and there. Then I added some snares and kicks, and for the snares I decided to just have one consistent snare, but then on every other snare I decided to add a second snare on top of it just to make it sound a little more interesting. Then I kept it at that for the drums, and I started to add the bass, and for the bass I just used Hip Hop Sub, which is Ableton's stock sub bass. I threw that in, turned up the distortion, and also turned up the glide because I wanted the notes to glide up and down a little bit. So then I wanted to add a cool bass fill somewhere in the beat, but I couldn't use the hip hop sub because there was already a ton of glide on it, and I could have automated the glide to turn off during the fill, but I felt like it was easier to just throw Trillion in and then add the bass fill that way. After I had this, I threw in some synth pads just under the keys. I just duplicated the main chord progression down to this, removed all of the filler notes, and extended some of the notes just to have a cool texture laying under the main chord progression. And then I added some vocals, but this time not from Exhale. I decided to just record some vocals using some autotune. Then for the verse of the track, I just duplicated the main chord progression, changed the sound to a Rhodes sound, and I stripped it down a little bit just to make it sound exactly like the hook, but just like a stripped down version, just to make it sound more like a verse. Then I added some lead keys. And I didn't want to use the sub from the hook, so I just threw in some 808s. Then for the second part of the verse, I threw in some pulsing synth pads. And that was pretty much it for the track. I'm just gonna sequence it out and maybe add a few things here and there just to make it sound a little more interesting. Now let's get into Neutron 3, which is Izotope's newest plugin. So Neutron 3's Mix Assistant and Visual Mixer is a great tool to speed up your mixing workflow and to also give you a good starting point before you dive deep into the mix. Let me show you how it works. So I've exported the stems to this track and imported them into a new project. Then I'm gonna add the relay plugin on all of my tracks. This allows you to adjust the fader, you can pan, and you can also adjust the width, but we're just adding it because this is what Neutron 3 requires to listen and analyze your track. Now that I have relay on all my tracks, I'm gonna throw in Neutron in a separate track. Then I'm gonna press Mix Assistant, balance, and before analyzing the track, it does suggest that you have all your faders set to 0. Then I'm gonna set the focus of this track to the drums. Obviously, this is going to be a case-by-case basis, but for this track, I want the drums to stand out, and that's going to be the main focus of the beat. So I'm going to select all of the drums. Then I'm going to press Begin Listening, and I'm going to listen from the beginning to the end of the track so Neutron 3 can analyze the entire track and balance it accordingly. So as you can see, Mix Assistant leveled all of the tracks, and it has faders for all of the group tracks. Now, obviously, if it didn't group tracks the way you wanted them to, you can customize this. And again, Mix Assistant does not mix for you. It just levels everything and gives you plenty of headroom to work with. And obviously, after you add this to your mix, then you're gonna have to go in and actually mix the track by adding compression, EQing things, and automating if you want, and all the other stuff that you want to add to the mix. Now, one last thing I want to show you guys before we sign out is the visual mixer, and you can see that it gives you access to all of your tracks. This allows you to pan the tracks, level the tracks the way you want, but it's just nice to see all of them labeled, and it's just nice to have a visual of your track, so you can play around with the levels and play around with the panning and width and all of that within the visual mixer, and yeah. And that was how I made the track. If you would like to listen to the full thing, it is linked in the description. It's also in the pinned comment. It's also on all streaming platforms. Also, I have new merch. This is the Las Vegas tee. I have hoodies and t-shirts on the website. The link for that is in the description, or if you scroll down a little bit past the description, you'll see that all of the items are listed. I have these in a bunch of different colors. This is what the front looks like, and this is my logo if you haven't noticed already. And this is what the back looks like. This is actually my car right here. So just a little bit behind the artwork. So a really long time ago when I was working on a mixtape called Godspeed, I had this artwork made because this is the Las Vegas Strip with my car, and it just means a lot to me because I had it made a long time ago. I've held on to the artwork, and I actually used this for my first ever sample pack called the Las Vegas Sample Pack. So it just has a lot of meaning to it, and I think it looks good. I have t-shirts and hoodies available now if you guys would like to support me and the channel and just everything I'm doing. It would really mean a lot if you picked up some merch. If you have any video suggestions, please leave them down in the comments below. I do try my best to respond to every single comment. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
We can fall in love.